Okay, do you ever feel like real estate's like a roller coaster ride where you ride that wave, you get really excited, you have some deals in the pipeline, you get it going, you close some deals, and then you're like, oh crap, what's next, right? You kind of go through this cycle over and over again. That right there is very common. I actually talk with a lot of agents who have this issue, and it really depends on a few factors. The reason why it goes up and down is because when you get up to that high point where you're doing a lot more deals and kind of go in that spot, usually what happens is your lead generation of getting new clients is all the way down here. So then it's like you kind of have to go like this, right? Your lead generation goes up, you reset, you do that again, repeat, and kind of that pattern emerges, right? One of the things I want to talk about today is really one of those systems that you can use to implement to be, instead of just somebody who, rides that wave and has it where you're like, what does that look like? That you can build it in to have more consistency. So rather, your lead generation is consistent and your business continues to increase because of those relationships that you develop, right? Ultimately, one of the systems that, we're going to talk about is the 36 touch. So if you haven't heard it, it's in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Awesome book. Highly recommend that you go get it, to read through it. And I'm going to kind of be using some aspects from that with some other different things to help you figure out how to improve the system, right? Ultimately, when I'm coaching with agents or teaching them and going through this conversation, I got to remember to remind people to start small, right? I want you to have big dreams. I want you to be thinking, what's out there? What am I doing? What am I going to achieve to really hit my best, right? And then break it down all the way to those small pieces of what you need to do to be able to be at that right spot for the people, in your lives and for the business that you want to build, right? We're very much, this is an entrepreneur game, and becoming more of a purposeful business owner is going to be very impactful for what you're wanting to do. So going that way, thinking small, starting small, I want you to remember while we're having this conversation of the 80-20 principle, right? 20% of what you do, those big rocks, is going to affect 80% of your results, right? So focusing on the right things will give you more results, where if you focus on the 80%, the small rocks, then you're going to be getting 20% of your results. In my opinion, if you're like me, you want to be working on the right things to get the most amount out of it so that you can focus and put your time where it really matters, right? Because I'm really all about, just like I have right here behind me, right? Having it so that you have a life worth living, right? That right there is going to be the core piece of building the business worth owning, and building what you're doing is for that goal. So without further ado, the 36 touch. Ultimately, this is going to be your rhythm, your pattern to stay in relationship and stay top of mind with the people that matter to you, the people that you want to have in your life, who are also going to be your customers. They're going to be the people that you want to spoil. They're going to be the people who want to buy and sell. Those group of people who you want to put the effort into them, and knowing, of course, naturally, they're going to remember and have you be their agent so you can help them in their times of need and add value to their lives. So if we think about a few things, the data, first of all, shows a drastically high amount of people, when they're looking to buy or sell, only look at their first two agents. A good portion, right around 50% plus, is going to only look at one agent for buying and selling, right? They're going to look at interviewing one person. The next biggest section is number two. And then from there, it gets to a pretty small number for each buyers and sellers who are going to interview more than two people, right? So in the grand scope of things, being first or second in someone's mind is going to be very important for you to be having that consistency, having it so that you can build the business that you're wanting to own. So the 36 touch is your tool and your system to do that. Ultimately, the 36 touch, right? That means that you're needing to reach out in some form or fashion to people 3 times a month, right? 3 times a month is going to equal so that you then are reaching out 36 times a year. And the real question is, how are you doing that? So one of my favorite books is this one right here, right? This right here is the 7 levels of communication. And there's a graph, right? You're not going to be able to see it in detail, but it has ultimately the triangle of the seven levels of communication. The main top ones, for example, it's one-on-one meetings, events and seminars, phone calls, handwritten notes, electronic communication, then direct mail and advertising. The top ones are in the influential zone and the bottom ones are in the informational zone. So when you're constructing this 36 touch, I want you to make sure you're thinking about what are you going to focus on and have be in there so that you can not only still be as much in the influential zone as possible with the people that you're wanting to have this relationship with, but also having it, you're going to have a good mix of some in the informational zone, right? So of course, for 36 touch, you can't be like, great, I'm going to meet with somebody 36 times a year and do that on a wide enough scale to get the numbers, right? Because you go through and you want to have results from your database. You need to have people in your database, in your system, and then have it where, okay, what does that look like, right? Meeting with somebody one-on-one 36 times a year is going to be really hard to do on a larger scale. So maybe you have some VIP clients that's what you choose, and you say, hey, I'm going to do that in that way to really make sure that they have that extra aspect of being in that relationship with you, right? But that's going to be one of those things that you need to decide where and what is your rhythm. Ultimately, what I tell, the first thing that you should be starting with for this 36 touch is quarterly phone calls. That means that 4 of your touches are going to be phone calls, right? How do you reach out to them? Have the good conversation. One of the methods that we teach quite a bit is the Ford or the frog method. Depending on how you want to have that conversation to kind of go there and build that relationship. Ultimately, Ford, for example, stands for family and friends. People like to talk about that. Occupation, right? What people are doing, where they're excited, what's exciting right now, what's going on, those kind of things, right? That's occupation. Then they like recreation. They enjoy their hobbies. What do they like to do? If you have connections in those as well, that makes that conversation even easier, right? And then number 4 of Ford is D, which is dream, right? What are their dreams? What are their goals? What are they wanting to accomplish so that you can then be there and see if you can be that connector, helper in that way to make it so that they can achieve what they're looking for, right? But the Ford or the frog method, they're the same ones, right? The G and frog is goals. Either way is going to be a way for you to have that conversation. The system that I've really loved, that I've adopted, you have a lot of ways you could do it. You could have it be where each person in your database, you're having some form of task that it reminds you. You could have it be where you know that you're going to look and say, hey, have I talked to everybody in this group? And what's my percent? And who have I not talked to? And have it just be like you're just going down that list, right? Because a lot of CRMs, when you're in them, you can kind of look at the last contacted date for calling, and you can then say, okay, I'm going to do it from farthest away to now, right? And then you can just be like, okay, great. I should always be having it where no one is hitting that 3-month mark, right? Or another system, the one that I use is called DTD2. It's ultimately where you take the alphabet, right? There's the letters in the alphabet. You're going to take, like, for example, an A and a W, and those last names are the ones that you're calling that week. And then by having it where you're doing 2 letters a week, you go through and it fits in every single quarter that you've now called all of them. I personally have tagged all my people in my database with the tag of their last name so that I can then, just select it by that to have myself easy calls, right? The cool part with that is if you're doing it every quarter and you're staying in touch with these people and building that relationship, reality is you're going to have somewhere, you're not going to have the largest number. You're going to have close to 20, 30 people, depending on the size of your database, every single week that you're supposed to stay in touch with and make sure that you're having that, relationship. So that's the first 4 that I highly recommend in a 36 touch. the others from there, right? I would do 4 handwritten notes, right? You talk to these people, you do something, you send them a handwritten note. It's going to be something that stands out. You don't have to do 4. You can do 2. You can do 1. You can do 0. The ultimate goal is what's going to be your structure. Do that, right? Then, of course, okay, maybe something for birthdays. That can be 1 a year, right? If they have a spouse, then that's 2 a year, right? You're now giving them something in that way, right? You could do a newsletter. Some people love them. Some people don't, right? If you did a monthly newsletter of what's going on in the neighborhood or what's going around or those kind of things. I've seen some great agents who do that with, they'll do more of like a journal kind of aspect of what they saw going on that week, and it kind of ties to their life, but also with real estate, and they just do it weekly, right? That's then 52. I mean, just depends again, where and what is your rhythm going to be delivering this value, and how does that look? Right? You could do, if your system has it, neighborhood monthly market update. So you have it where every single month it sends them information of what's listed and what's sold and all of that about their neighborhood. Because, if your people are a lot like my people, they kind of like to know what's going on in their neighborhood. It's one of those things where it's like, they're like, oh yeah, this person just did this. This person sold. Oh, this person listed, right? They love seeing that, and then it keeps them aware to some degree of what their house could potentially be, and you're adding that value, right? Events, that's another one. If you're going to do some events, I've seen it where there's models of, okay, you do 4, a quarterly event, and it helps with your phone calls because then you get to invite them to that, and if they come, great. If not, you talked with them, right? You gave them the option and added value that way. I've seen it where people do more of micro events. They invite a smaller group of people, they try and switch it up. There's a lot of different methods that you can do to make this happen to get to 36, right? 36 is, in my opinion, should be where your minimum is, right? When I've helped to coach a lot of teams, I'm surprised how often it's like 50 plus in their touch system of saying, what does this look like to help these, help these clients and reach out of that communication. So that's going to be that thing that you have to decide. Ultimately, having AI as be one of your strategic partners is a great way to do this. I'll even attach below in the comments, we'll put one of the prompts, a link to one of the prompts that I use or have given out to some agents to help them kind of go through that and use that prompt as their strategic partner to say, hey, help me construct my 36 touch, right? If you look at all of these different touches, all the different ones, if you think about the 7 levels, right, and saying, hey, how can I have more of that be in the influential zone of a phone call or an event or a one-on-one meeting? I mean, if you have your VIP group, you can do, how do you, once a quarter, take each of your VIP group out to lunch, right? But lots of different ideas that you can do to kind of make that happen. I'll also put in the comments a list of just 100 items. It's actually more than that, but 100 things you could pick and choose in this for you to say, hey, how do I build my 36 touch? So we'll put those links in there for you. Make sure, use them, kind of have that, and just, really build this, because this is going to be that core system that if you do continuously and over time, you're going to then get more and more results from it. And it's going to be something that gives you consistency in your life of your business, right? And honestly, consistency is greater than creativity, right? If you're consistent and there and doing those things, people are then going to remember you more than the one time that you did something in a different way, right? So show up, be there for people, use this information, and remember, start small. If you're not doing anything, I would highly recommend that probably your 4 best touches are going to be your 4 phone calls, right? It's in the influential zone. It's there for you to have that conversation. Look at your CRM, go back into that, see how you can, what structure you want to have that be a part of a system, a model, something that you are then doing on that consistent basis to build relationships with people that you want in your life. But go make it happen. Go build a business. Subscribe if you want more. See ya.